Wow, thank you, Deirdre, for that beautiful introduction. And thank you so much for being here tonight. This is just, it's unbelievable. It's surreal. And Saphia, thank you for your time. Although, face it, I mean, you get to get out of the house for a couple of minutes. How great is this?
Thanks.
And you're looking awesome, too.
I brushed my hair today.
You
which is
did?
great
Good
for
for
a new
you.
mom. Yes, it was
Good
a
girl.
good day.
Can everybody hear okay? Just yell from the back if you can't. Yeah, you can.
And we know where
Awesome.
the heckling stick section is now
All right,
as well.
and this is not vodka, but that's in the book. At one time it might have been. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I can't give too much away.
Well, already we've started. Let's call a spade, no matter what brings you all here tonight, whether you are a Lighthouse family, whether you've recently experienced grief, or whether you are some of the many in the audience, the majority of the audience who have followed Erin for decades, you will all leave flying a little higher tonight. Because, folks, a true uplifter is here with us. Erin Davis, you came to uplift, and uplift you shall.
Thank you.
You are family to much of the crowd here. But will you start off by telling us about those events, May 2015, that changed your life forever?
All right, I will do that. It was a beautiful morning in Jamaica. It was a Monday morning. It was just the hours after Mother's Day, and CHFI winners had joined us just the day before, and we would do these listener trips a couple of times a year. And Mike and I would go down there, and I had this little magic trick. On the plane on the way to any of the listener trips, Rob would have really sort of the digital version of flashcards so that I could memorize everybody's name. So I would go, Melissa, Sean, God help me if they weren't together or if they changed their glasses or their hair from the time they came into the station to pick up their airline tickets. But that was kind of my little trick. And after those events that day, my memory kind of went like that. It's part of the cloak, the gift of shock that sort of befalls you when something like this happens. But everybody had arrived. We had a Mother's Day cake and a reception, and then the Monday morning, people were up. Not quite as many as in this group, but there was about 80 people all gathered in a big ballroom on a beautiful, humid morning. And if you've been to the Caribbean, you know all you hear in the dark are the tree frogs, and everything's kind of wet, including the floors. It's funny the things you remember. But we were sitting at this table, and my sweet Rob, who's there we are. Who's running pictures for us here tonight? One of our promotions people came up to him and said, "There's a phone call for you from Toronto," and okay. So Rob got up and went to the lobby, and I'm sitting there. You know what it's like to be preparing for a broadcast, and you got 10 minutes, and then we're going to go live back to Toronto and you know the live morning show. And he didn't come back, and he didn't come back. And I thought, well, where's Rob? That's what I said. And then got up from the table, went out, sort of high-fiving everybody with my coffee mug and saying good morning to the sleepy folks who had joined us on their vacation to watch a radio show. And out I went to the lobby, and there sat Rob on a bench across from the front desk, and his shoulders were slumped. And I said, what is it? And I named an in-law that I thought might have gotten sick or something, and he said, it's Lauren. She died in her sleep. And I don't remember really what my reaction was at that point. I know that it was, of course, I probably no, but I couldn't be loud about it because it was so quiet and everyone was sleeping in this hotel, and the cavernous echo of the lobby. And they had prepared this little room at the side where you stow your luggage if you want to play for the day. And they had offered to send us to that little room. And I said, no, we were fine because you always have your show face on. It's just something I'd always had. Yeah, it is. And then I went back into the ballroom. And Deirdre referred to doing the show from Jamaica. I went back in and sat down. After I told Mike Cooper, my partner, and our producer, I said, well, Lauren died. And they both just swore at me because they thought, you know, don't even joke about something like that. And then I sat down ready to do the show because there were listeners waiting, there were advertisers waiting, and it was just, saner heads prevailed and had me leave. But I don't know if I was really going to do the show, but it was a place where everything felt normal. in my life. You just go back to that little cocoon where everything was the same 10 minutes ago, and you can focus on something other than, you know, kind of the tsunami that's coming at you from right outside the hotel. So that happened. Lauren had died in her sleep. She just didn't wake up, and it was the day of her baby's 7-month birthday. So yeah, that's what happened.
When I read in the book that it was just past Mother's Day,
Yeah.
the profoundness and the heartbreaking qualities of the fact that she had just spent Mother's Day with her son, and you not being in the same area code, in the same country.
No, not even, you know, had it been Toronto, of course, we'd have gotten in the car right away, but it was all too late. Her husband, Phil, tried to awaken her to her baby's cries, and there she was, just slumped over the side of the bed. And the coroner tried so hard to determine what it was that killed her and was unable, although he had a very good idea that it was quite likely a drug that she was taking to help her to breastfeed that is banned in the US, yeah, I heard because I say that too, prescribed with care in the UK, but here you can get it like cheese samples on a Sunday at Costco. And it's called domperidone or Motilium, and it's very commonly taken, and I am not linking the two because I don't want to lose everything that we have. But what I will tell you is that all I am asking is that new moms who struggle with breastfeeding just get their hearts checked to make sure they don't have an abnormal heartbeat. We believe because Rob has a very slow heartbeat that maybe Lauren had the same thing and it jumped in between the beats and just stopped it. So that's what we believe, and the coroner tried and tried. Maybe there will be a test along the way. They've still got some of her tissues to test. And it's not like I'm looking for that precious word closure, and everybody here who's lost somebody knows that for the most part that's BS.
We throw that word around.
I know we really do.
We know what it's like. And
Episode's over. Time to move on. Time to get over it and go to the next thing. We're not looking for that closure. We're just looking for something to help other mothers who might be just so desperate to breastfeed in this age of, well, you know, the mommy bloggers. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to do that. And if you're not breastfeeding, you're not a mother, and take away the child. Or you know, she already felt like she hadn't quite lived up to the standard by having a cesarean at the last minute. It was an emergency C-section. So already she was carrying the stupid damn weight of social media on her shoulders. And we tried, and she was a very headstrong young woman, and I knew enough, you know, when Lauren says, "Okay, Mom, that's enough." There wasn't anything I could do except to suggest any other natural aids. But when we heard about this drug, you know, and everybody's taking it and it works, it sounded like a miracle.
When I first learned a little bit more about this story, I didn't know if I was going to be able to read much of the book because of how much I resonate with the stage that Lauren was in.
Of course.
But I have to tell you, what an amazing job you have done keeping her memory alive in a positive way. And that kept me going, that optimism in the book. She's here with us right now. Let's talk about her for a minute, you know?
That was the happiest day of our life after the day that Lauren was born. That was October 11th, so he just turned 5 years old, little Colin, and he was born in Ottawa. So it was Thanksgiving weekend. It was Saturday evening. And for some reason, Rob and I had decided to have our turkey dinner early, and there it was about 5:30, and we were done, and she phoned us and said, "You want to come to Ottawa?" And we said, "Do we?" So off we were, and then a beautiful low-slung orange harvest moon guided our way all the way there until we got to about Perth, when her husband called and said, "Lauren's going to be having a cesarean." And okay, so he was very worried, but we were sure everything was going to be okay. And this little boy came out with. He was kind of, his feet were blue because he'd had the umbilical cord around his neck, but his giant feet, like his dad. And so there he is, and he's just a gorgeous, wonderful little boy. And I would love to know that if he was older and had suffered through the, oh, my uterus.
Be still our hearts, be still our hearts.
I know, right?
Yes. Those eyes.
Oh, I know. And they were blue for the longest time, and they turned to hazel, and we thought he's going to be the very first blue-eyed Shirakawa in the world, because his dad is a quarter Japanese, but no, they've gone hazel now. But
She
yeah.
will live on through the book for him.
Well, you know, Saphia, this is
I
part
really
of my.
got that feeling. I got to know her through the book.
Thank you,
You will
really,
cherish her memory.
I'm optimistic that he will, because anyone can Google anything now, and there will be, if you Google my name, and I'm not saying I ever have. Media people don't do that. The first thing that comes up is Erin Davis's daughter. Well, after me, comes up Erin Davis's daughter, or how did Erin Davis's daughter die? Because it's just one of those things. I think now we put two and two together, and many of us come up with drug overdose, or so many of the ways that our children die in the 21st century. So he is going to find out about it, and it's not going to be a big secret now anyway, because why have I got extra grandparents, you know? And so I just wanted this book.
More love.
Well, exactly.
More love is not a bad thing.
But the logistics of it, how come, there's Mommy, he's got a new Mommy, and I'll get to that. And there's Daddy, and then there's these two, Grandma and Granddad Banana, which is what we call ourselves. I'm Grandma Banana, because Grandma Marnier was a little bit too, maybe one day.
It's very sophisticated.
I know. So we wanted him to know Lauren through this book. And certainly, the rear view mirror sometimes is pretty glossy. But and our publisher said that, be sure that you mention that your memories are going to be very special and sweet. But she just was special and sweet. She really, really, truly was.
And as you say, a large but short life. So then when you talk about how vibrant she was, a radio personality in her own right,
Yep.
very successful in her own right
Yep.
in Ottawa, for Ottawa's 580 News, and you talk about the large life that she lived, how frustrating was it at the onset of her death to then not have that cause at first, to not have peace with that fact of it at first? I assume you've made peace with that part of it.
Well, yeah, there's a lot
now.
of acceptance, Saphia, that comes with the gift of time. And, if you go through the Kubler-Ross, one of them is acceptance, although that is for the people who are dying, that she came up with these 5 steps. In our case, as those who are grieving and left behind, writing the book was the acceptance, and also just coming to know that, no, we weren't going to know what killed her. And would it make a difference to us? It might make a difference to other mothers, if we can possibly get that word out so that nobody else has to lose their child like this or lose their life like this. But it really, I don't know. I don't think that was that frustrating for me. There was just so much else that was going on.
Let's talk about that turmoil. As you mentioned, the tsunami was about to come at you.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing felt normal. Getting a drink of water probably felt strange, no matter
Everything.
where you were.
Yeah.
Except maybe for one place where you would put on your headphones and you'd
Yeah.
be back into a bit of normalcy. What was it like going back on the airwaves at CHFI after Lauren had died?
It was exactly 1 month to the day, as it turned out, June 11th, which was Colin's 8-month birthday, and my dad's actual birthday. So I just thought, okay.
Auspicious.
Yeah, well, 11s are big for me somehow. I don't know, it sounds silly, but they just are. And I thought, well, if not now, then when? Because there were some people who thought that I was never going to go back. I don't think I was one of them, because as I mentioned, in the very moments after learning that Lauren had died, that was my safe place. And so I could go into this room with Mike Cooper and our producers, Ian and Gord, and Steve Roberts, our newscaster at the time, and just feel like I was with family and it was safe. And although the first few weeks, it felt like I was a scuba diver and I was running out of air and was just trying to get up to the surface. And I would come home and just, clothes went off in a trail to the bedroom, and then I would just kind of sit there and try and catch my breath. It was the place where I could laugh again, and gradually people came to be hearing me healing, and that was when sort of things started to turn around, because I thought, okay, I've got this, nobody's got this, but I can do this. At least I can. What are you looking at? Oh, and I got the same necklace on. It's
True
ELR,
family.
Erin,
True
Lauren, and
family.
Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's our sweet, sweet Mike Cooper, my work husband. And the sex is about the same. Anyway. Kidding.
He's like, I've heard this joke before.
I know. He loves when I make fun of him and he can't even get back at me. Anyway, yes, go on.
So it wasn't just the work family, though, that carried you through this.
Oh, my
There
God.
is a larger family part of which is here right now. You couldn't fit them all in one room, but the listeners helped carry you through that healing process too, I can imagine. You spoke in the book about all of the things you received. Now, we don't realize what a role somebody like yourself has in the living rooms of the nation.
Bedrooms,
Somebody
bathrooms,
said that. Somebody said that.
living rooms of the nation, the bedrooms of the nation.
There you go.
Politics and radio hosts have no place in the bedrooms of the nation.
Thank you.
Yes.
But people really have lived these lives along with you all, and they made sure that you knew it. They made sure that they knew that they were carrying this grief along with you.
It was the most astounding thing, and something that Rob and I will never, ever truly be able to thank everyone for. Because they heard I was pregnant when I was on the air with Dawn Daynard, and that was from the window of the bay. Oh my God, how we used to freeze sitting in that window at Young and Queen. Whose idea was that? John Hinnon, who was my news director and hired me at CHFI, he's back there. He's volunteering with Expedia, working with Expedia because they are linked in with Lighthouse. So Hinnon, I know it wasn't your idea, it was somebody in sales. But yeah, so that's when we announced that I was expecting, and then she was born in March. And so a week after that, I did my show from home. Like we were talking about, how long were you off? How long are you going to be off? No, it was 1 week, and that's only because she was born 3 weeks early, and they didn't have the line set up in the house yet.
And people would hear her cooing, I bet.
Yes, in fact, I did hear from more than one mom who said when Lauren would cry on the air, she would lactate. So, sorry about the other people on the GO train, lady. Anyway, so that was really, really gratifying. And then she would be on the Christmas Eve show with Rob and with me and with the whole CHFI family. And then, of course, when she got engaged, and when she was going to have a baby, she came into the studio and told us about it on the air. And so she was really part of our family, and everyone felt like they knew Lauren. She was very good about us talking about her on the air. There's the difference between the private and the personal that my radio guru taught me, and I would try never to go personal with her, or private with her, but to share stories of parenting that were universal. So everybody felt like they knew Lauren, and then when she died, one of the stories that I tell in the book, and I will never, ever, ever forget this, was hearing of a woman who pulled over her car because she had heard that morning, that when they announced it on the station, that Lauren had died, and she pulled over her car to cry, and someone pulled over their car to help her and see if she was okay, and They stood outside the car and hugged. I mean, it's just, I heard that from someone who saw it happen, and I couldn't believe it, that in this city, this big GTA that we consider to be so cold and impersonal, that people could be brought together by something like that. And
it's because you have worn your heart on your sleeve for decades.
Well,
it's your heart that everybody is feeling. And
thank you.
Tell us a little bit more about the reaction some of the listeners, like a prayer blanket?
Prayer
letters,
blankets,
emails.
more than one, and cards. We sat out 2 months later, out on the deck on a sunny summer day and opened up the cards one by one when we felt like we were ready to. You know what it's like when you get people signing the book at the funeral home and you don't know if you're ever going to open it again. But yeah, just to read those cards and then to get the emails. And it got to the point where it was December of the year, and she had died in May, but that December, the week of Christmas, when I didn't want to be doing anything else, I sat and made sure that every email was answered, because these people had given me a part of themselves in sharing how they felt and their grief and their own loss in a lot of cases. Because we don't talk about loss. We don't feel like anyone wants to hear that our hearts are broken, and so we all put on this brave face and this armor. And that is what I've tried to do with the book, is to help people to deal and to speak the language of loss, even if you haven't lost someone, how to talk to an alien being like me or like anyone who has lost. Because the worst thing you can hear is someone said, yeah, and I went back to work and none of my coworkers said anything. And it's not malice, it's just not knowing what to say. And it's understandable because we've all kind of been there. But do you think that we're gonna crumble if you mention our loved one who is gone, when they're right there all the time anyway, and you're wearing everything except a scar down, like a Harry Potter scar on your face, as Anderson Cooper and Stephen Colbert put it in this beautiful interview they did. You should Google it, it's on YouTube, it's wonderful, about grief. Because when she died and we were in Ottawa, I felt like I wanted to dye my hair silver or cut it all off or something, and it was the silliest impulse. just to show the world that I'm not the same person anymore and I never will be again, you know? But here we are. Here we are. We all kind of pull our pieces together and grab the Spanx and the lashes, and life goes on.
The fact that you have these listeners helping you carry part of this grief, it speaks to organizations like Lighthouse, right?
Oh,
to know
God.
that you're not alone.
Yeah.
But then there's the other side of the coin, too, and this really, really surprised me, is the fact that you had to not only help people understand your grief, but defend it. You had to defend it to those who accused you of hiding the true reasons why she died.
Oh, that woman.
So you had to defend why you were back on the air so soon.
Yeah.
Like, forget talking about not even knowing what to say, but then going a step farther and saying completely the wrong things.
Well, yeah, and I kind of debated whether to include those sort of dark side elements of the book, because we all have these. If you have any kind of success or happiness in your life, there's always going to be somebody who's just trying to just take you down a notch where you belong.
But celebrities are not untouchable. You are real people. You are a real person under that shell.
And I would even argue celebrity, if I'm a celebrity, I don't know, because I've always just kind of been me on the radio. But yeah, there was this horrific letter from a person, and I don't know if it's a man or a woman, that I included in the book just to show you how bad things could be. They basically said that, you know, to me, success was everything, so now you got what you wanted, you're paying the price. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Robbie, raise your hand if I should mention that letter, that email that I got 2 weeks ago. He's not, oh, he's going to raise it, okay. I got an email from a guy that I know I've heard from before. He was mad at me a couple of years ago because I was in Niagara-on-the-Lake and writing journals about it, because they paid me to do that, and I made it clear I was a guest of the Shaw Festival. But I kind of recognized his email address, and he said, wow, making money off your daughter's death. Boy, lady, you're a fucking piece of work. I know. So all I could do was not respond. But now that's because I am serene and calm and sober. And I didn't respond. He said, and my first response was going to be, you idiot, nobody makes money off of writing a book. But that was going to be my response. But I didn't respond. I sent it out to 2 girlfriends who just got furious for me, and they didn't respond either, because I don't let this guy know. If you're here, please, sir, I'd love to meet you.
We all have something to say to you, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, there's always, no matter what you do, and I don't have to tell Lisson this, because she's like superwoman in the business world, and she always tweets and writes positivity, and she's just amazing. But there's always going to be somebody who tries to take you down. And I'll be honest with you, from the moment that HarperCollins asked me if I would write this book, because I didn't come up with this idea myself. There's no way I was going to write my story, send it out to 16 publishers, and have them go, no. So the moment it came to mind, I thought, is anybody going to think that ... because we're all so conditioned, especially in the media, where you change your hair and you get 19 emails, you know, that somebody's going to try and you know, eviscerate you. And it hurt me so much, that email 2 weeks ago, that I got right after I'd finished doing my speech at a conference for the Ontario Association of Cemetery and Funeral Professionals, who are great. They were wonderful. It was quite an undertaking. Thank you. And so I was feeling pretty good. And of course, asking my questions like, how could that have been better and all that. And then I get that email and I go, why are you in my life? And you know why? Because for all of this light, there has to be the darkness to make the light shine. And you know, I don't know. I liken it to the lighthouse. You don't need a lighthouse on sunny days. You know, so that's I guess, what I'm doing with the responses. And people thought I was giving a bad example, showing a bad example by being back on the air a month later. Because like, there are people who are just completely taken down and never get up. And I understand that. I do understand that. But this is just how I had to cope. This is what I had to do. And maybe, you know what, I don't know if you guys believe in psychics or not, and if you don't, that's okay. There's just one woman who told me that Lauren would be born on the 11th and that my mom would be with her on the 11th and all of these different things. And this was long before Colin was born or anything like that. And she's a lovely woman and a friend. And she said that Lauren said, Mom, it's not about you anymore. It's about them. And even if it hadn't come from a woman that I, paid for this reading, it was a good reminder. It's a good message that it isn't about me. It isn't about Rob. It's not why Melissa's coming up tonight or why Lisa's going to join us or why you're here on your mat leave, sweet girl. That it isn't about us anymore. And if it was, oh, what would it all be for?
We all wish these stories didn't happen, but the fact that you're all here, others will be helped in the process. We all wish it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But the ripple effects of what you have done and even just what you all are hearing tonight is huge. But I think we need to talk about how others who are in the grieving process deal with the judgment from the rest of the world about how appropriately or inappropriately they mourn. There's no linear process. There's no 5-step program. It's not pretty.
No. And I think that that's a lot of what we come to expect in our society is that, every time you open an article, it's like 8 ways to have great orgasms or whatever. Or 6 ways to look better in 2 hours or all these little things that are so fast and instant cure-alls. But there is no timeline. There are no steps. There are signposts that we are expected to kind of observe, however vaguely. Like if you're in complicated grief, then you really do need to get help. If you seem to be at a place where you're just not moving forward or maybe even regressing. So there are a lot of signposts, but absolutely no timeline too. I mean, I included a blog in the book from a woman who said, pardon me while I grieve. And her friends were saying, it's been a year. Don't you think you should start dating? Or when are you going to get rid of his clothes? Or all of these things. And conversely, oh, you're doing it too fast. Which is what we easily could have thought about our son-in-law when we found out, in a very funny way, that he was dating only a few months after Lauren had died, when really this is what we had hoped for him. We wanted for him to move on and find happiness so Colin would be happy because what was best for Phil was going to be best for the baby, right? So we're in Phil's house, and we'd been going to Ottawa every couple of weeks after Lauren died so that there was a horrific flood in the house she died in. That wasn't what killed her, but it was like a month later, Phil was here he was actually in Mississauga, recovering with his family and Colin, and their house, their little townhouse, suffered a horrific flood.
No.
Devastating.
No.
So that happened Father's Day, because we love Mother's Day and Father's Day in my family. That happened Father's Day, and he didn't find out about it until Canada Day.
Oh, God.
So the place was a disaster. So there's Phil now in a 2-bedroom apartment in downtown Ottawa with a baby, and we went to visit, and there was like baby food on the walls, and just because you had seen just how Phil was struggling, he kept doing cloth diapers and kept making the detergent because this is what Lauren had done and this is what Lauren had done. And so we would go there to try and, go out, have a life, get out there. And so he did, and he met a young woman that he had worked with in a previous incarnation, and she was suffering through grief as well. And so we found out about it when we were visiting Phil, and I wanted to make sure I had this newfangled text thing under control. And so I texted him, we got it back. He texted me, have a good night, honey, make lots of money. And I thought, I'm not dancing tonight. So I had to give that up when my tassels were better for cleaning the floor. But anyway. So I went, I said to Rob, he's got a girlfriend. And my blood ran cold. But when we stopped and thought about it, well, of course he does. And that's a good thing, and it's a wonderful thing. And now, just 3 weeks ago, Colin became a big brother. So I don't even know what picture's up there. Oh, there's Phil, and there's Brooke. They got married a year ago last summer, and there's Colin. So, and actually, the thing is that baby, there she is, Robbie, you're really good at this. This is baby Jane, and she actually looks so much like Colin when he was that age. So it's going to be a wonderful thing, and we get to be her grandma and granddad banana too.
Yeah, we'd love to hear about the grandma, granddad, banana. They're all still in Ottawa. You still get to see the
Yes,
whole gang
we're
often.
going to see them as of this next, like a week today, and we're going out for Halloween with him. Yeah, he's going out as Woody from Toy Story, and I don't want to take up too much time here. I got to tell the Toy Story story. From the time that she was a child, that was like our movie. The first one and then the second one, which was kind of meh. But the third one, when Andy Davis goes off to college and gives away the toys, Lauren was going to college at that time too. And so we found it to be, just, oh God, we'll never see this movie again. And it was, just tears. And she saw the movie with us too. So that was the end of that. And then Lauren died. Then Toy Story 4 comes out, and we're like, no, we are not going to see this movie. But we were in Ottawa 2 weeks ago, and lo and behold, there it was at one last cinema, the Imagine Cinemas, and
Waiting for you.
Waiting
for
we
you.
took Colin to his very first movie, and it was Toy Story 4. And he was great.
It's like you say, you find solace in whatever world is around you at the moment.
Well, it's true, and all we can do is choose the way that we want to go on, because life happens to everybody. But Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, which is an amazing book, he just said that it's the last of human choices, is the ability to choose how to go on. And I'm not ever going to judge anybody for how they choose to go on. I chose to be comfortably numb through some of the aftermath of Lauren's death. I'm not judging anybody. All I'm doing is what I can, and hopefully helping out other people on the way. Hopefully.
One of the things that irked me, as it irked you, I'm sure, when I was reading the book, was the fact that people would say, at least when it came to Colin. At least you still have Colin.
At
least you have this.
Let's talk about the at least, shall we?
Talk about patronizing and
oh, gosh.
minimizing.
But you know what? The thing is, people will say the thing that they think is going to give you comfort.
People don't know what to say.
No, and that's the thing. That's why we're here, is people don't know what to say. What do you say when there are no words? And it's okay not to have words. It's okay to say, there are no words. And Rob and I would say, that's okay. You're right, there aren't any. But just to know that you're feeling for someone, or my heart goes out to you, which is, why Olivia Newton-John is on the cover of the book, is because that was the song that she and Amy Skye and Beth Nielsen Chapman wrote the morning Lauren died, because I knew Amy Skye, and they were all sitting together at the kitchen table in Los Angeles at Olivia's house. And Amy got the text, and she said, oh my God. And she said, I don't know what to say to her. And they said, well, what do you want to say? My heart goes out to you. So then they ran off to the piano and wrote this song, which was the opening cut on their Live On album, which is about grief and mourning. So what to say? At least, we heard them all. At least you still have a husband. At least you have a grandson. And the at leasts are the things that do hurt the most. But the at leasts are for us to say, because they're part of the blessings that we count. At least she didn't suffer. Someone said that to me and should have had a throat punch. But I can say it, right? I can say it. At least she didn't suffer. At least she left us Colin. At least her heart didn't stop when she was driving a car. There are so many blessings to be counted, but we, the bereaved, get to count them. Yeah. That's our little gift, right?
Do you see all the Kleenexes that you're counting out there right now? Thank you for being so real with your story. And it's not just what you experience, but it's also your internal story as well. Can we talk a little bit about...
Oh, go ahead.
You've been very, very open. Yeah, pull up a comfy chair, everybody.
Ask me anything.
You have been very, very open with the fact that you used alcohol to numb some of the pain, the litany of all these losses. And then you went and were able to seek help, and were able to unearth some pretty deep feelings.
Yeah.
Thank you for not sugarcoating this, because it is not a pretty process.
No, it sure is not. There's a lot of drinking in radio. It's one of those businesses, and television.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean you. And look at you.
Wow.
My God, woman. No, and the media in general. Any business where there's a lot of stress and pressure and
Deadlines.
Deadlines, yes, and sometimes working with or for monsters. All of those things can combine. to put a lot on your shoulders, and I had a lot on my shoulders at a young age, and alcohol was just kind of the way that I could deal with working with somebody who wasn't always happy that I was there in the morning. And that was my first co-host. He and I had a wonderful relationship, but I expected too much from him. I wanted him to be kind of my father figure, or I wanted to. Anyway, that's a whole bunch more counseling. So that's and I also I found myself targeted by other men at other radio stations who made fun of my looks and made fun of all kinds of things about me. And I think they were all just trying to be Howard Stern in the way that he treated so many people. I understand now he's on the redemption tour, and his book is outselling mine, so I can't say anything. But he has realized that he was a real, jerk. So anyway, I was the target of that kind of stuff, and I didn't know how to deal with it. So, there was my friend, Grey Goose, and it just made everything kind of better until it didn't. And I stopped in July of 2005, July 2006. And I had 10 years of sobriety, right on through, including Lauren's death. She died in 2015, but it was just the week that I had announced I was leaving CHFI. Rob and I were on a plane taking a little vacation. So it was November 2016. And I ordered a Virgin Caesar, and I got one. And then I guess you can't have a Virgin twice. So the next one, he gave me a Caesar, and it had vodka in it. And I went, oh, okay, let's see if I've got an off switch. Which it turns out that if you're an alcoholic, you don't have an off switch. And the addiction, you could stop here and live your life, but the addiction just keeps going like that. And when you're ready to open it up again, it's there, and it's ready to take over. So that was the week that I'd announced that I was leaving and that Donald Trump was elected. And so I just ran out of dams to give. And so I left radio about 3 weeks later, moved out to the West Coast, didn't have to get up at 3 in the morning anymore, didn't have deadlines, didn't have people who were expecting me to be bright and on top of things. And so I just delved into this. So I would write during the day, and then, about 7 o'clock, it was time to start drinking martinis. So that's how I conducted myself until this spring, when I thought, okay, this is stupid. This is really stupid. I'm starting to forget things. I'm looking much older than my 38 years. So yeah, it's a preservative, but not that good. So I decided to check myself into treatment, and I did 6 weeks. And
So brave.
Thank you. It was not at all, like, I have this friend who thought it was like, I don't know, some sort of a spa, some sort of canyon ranch. It was not canyon ranch. It was sleeping on little hard beds and, lining up for meds and doing all of that kind of stuff that, there were days I didn't wear makeup. Can I just tell you, it was that serious? It was. And that's what I said to my counselor. The day you see me here without makeup is when you know I'm really starting to recover, because I had this mask on all the time, dance monkey. So that's what I did, and I've come out of it, and one day at a time. So that's also my story, but I don't, I can't proselytize about it because it has anonymous in the name. So I just, I'm here if anybody asks about it, how does it work for you? So that's how it works.
Like we said, it's not a linear line, right? There's no straight up and down.
Oh, hell no.
Tell us about the decision to leave CHFI. You mentioned the mask. You mentioned all the things that happened with the tsunami of all those changes during that week.
Yeah. Well, it actually came, there were a number of changes. Lauren died in May of 2015. February 2016, Mike Cooper took leave of the show. He said he had to resign because he wanted to spend more time with his terminally ill wife, Debbie Cooper, who died a year ago today, my angel. So Mike left. I lost my favorite dance partner of all time with Mike Cooper. We were just with him a couple of weeks ago. And he said, you taught me how to be real on the radio. And I said, no, you already knew. I just gave you the opportunity to do it, because he was there for me in every way. And we would laugh and we would cry. And it was just, it was so magical. So when Mike left, it was like, another death, in a way. And then we brought in Darren, and it was, he's a great partner to Mo, but I didn't have it in me to learn new dance steps or to just try and show somebody what I needed in order to be real on the radio. So I just figured, you know what? Bill Blass, the designer, used to say, know when to leave the party. And I had a feeling it was time to leave the party. So CHFI very generously let me out of my contract, and Rob and I moved west. We left everything, everybody, all our friends, my career, Rob's hockey buddies, and we left everything. And Colin in Ottawa, but we kind of rationalized that by saying we can do Facebook once a week. We can do 5 or 6 hours of flying driving as opposed to a 4-hour drive, and we can still be with them. And they needed a chance to grow. Phil had moved on, didn't need the ghost in-laws over there, kind of as the ghost of Christmas is past in their lives. But that being said, they're wonderful to us, and we love them very, very much, because grief is just love with no place to go. And if you can find a way to open your heart, and I didn't make that up, I wish I had, but you can if you put it on Twitter, just say I said it. But if you get a chance to love again, whether it's a child or a fiance or anyone that can help you to open up the fullness of your heart, why on earth wouldn't you take it? Our lives are too damn short. Reclaiming joy. Yeah, well, absolutely, right?
Erin Davis, folks, a big round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Wonderful job. Whoops, this is my mic pad.
So for far too long, grief has been a closed-door subject. If you get if you get some of our drift here, we are throwing those doors wide open tonight, folks. No longer is it something that is done behind closed doors or anything to have any shame around. We're going to play a little musical chairs. We said we were going to give this subject a voice and give wings to some of the other women, important and strong women, who have recently experienced this. Melissa Gaston, come on up. I got to tell you all a story as well while we give Melissa a big round of applause. We had the chance to have a little talk on the phone, and I got to hear some of her story within the last week or two. And I got to say, after getting off the phone with you, Melissa, I called 2 of my girlfriends who have recently experienced grief and said, I don't know what to say, but I'm here for you. You're right. Me being on the other side of this, you don't know what to say. You don't know how to help somebody that's going through it. But to mention that you're there for somebody is something. It's something. It's anything, as you mentioned on the phone.
Yeah, and it's like Erin said, even acknowledging there is nothing to say, that is so much better than saying some of the other things that we may be very, very well intentioned.
Oh, come on, share some with us. I shared mine. What did you get?
My personal favorite was, but he's in a better place.
Oh, God.
That's my favorite one. And I actually, would, to your point, you want to jump out of your chair, and I was like, I'm really trying hard not to say, please tell my children that.
Yeah, exactly.
Please.
God needed another angel.
Right.
Have we heard that one?
Yeah. Oh, that one's good.
Yes.
Yeah. So please go and tell my, at the time, 4-year-old and 7-year-old that he's in a better place. That was the one for me. But I would, take a deep breath and go, coming from a good place. It's coming from a good place. It's coming from a good place. Because people don't know. And so I'm the first person to say, before I experienced loss, I had no idea. I would have been the one saying, he's in a better place, or at least, or, any of those things. And you don't know what you don't know. And I think one of the reasons why we've all agreed to be here today is to help you learn.
So a little bit of background about Melissa. You heard a little bit from Deirdre, but do you want to give us the synopsis
my elevator piece, my elevator pitch, as I call it.
I am not getting in the elevator to hear this story.
With your late husband and how it's led you on this current journey.
Yeah. So in August of 2014, my husband Ellis was feeling unwell. We thought he had an ulcer from a medication he was taking. He'd gone to the doctor, he was getting checked. They'd done an ultrasound of his stomach, and he was gone back to get the results. And I remember it was Tuesday afternoon, and I was at home cooking dinner, and the kids were in the family room. It was summer, and it was lovely. And he walked in the door. I'm like, so what happened, right? And he said, so I don't have an ulcer. I have cancer, and my liver is full of tumors. And I was like, pardon me? While cooking dinner and pretending nothing's happening, because the kids are literally in the open concept family room, And so that started us on a very intense journey. He had, as we learned not much longer after that, terminal colon cancer, stage 4. His liver was fully involved. There were innumerable tumors in his liver. And within 2 weeks, we had been told he had a 50-50 chance of living 2 years. We were only talking about time, and we got 11 months. That was it, just 11 months. So it was very fast and intense. When you talk about we are the ones who get to count the blessings. I think our blessing was the end for us came very quickly and somewhat unexpectedly. When you watch someone you love be in that much excruciating pain day after day after day, especially at the end, there is a sense of relief and a whole lot of guilt that goes with that when they finally let go and they're gone. So I actually, so I live in Oakville with my children. My children were, Rachel was 2 months shy of her 5th birthday when he died, and Alex was 7. And a couple of months before he died, I went to Whole Foods shopping to get groceries. And I, in the back of my head, I sort of knew what I had heard of Lighthouse, or it had been in, some of the 8,000 pounds of materials the hospital sends home with you from the Family Life Center, none of which is helpful. And Whole Foods was having a charity shopping day, so a percentage of the proceeds that day were going to Lighthouse. And I'm standing in line, checking out with my groceries, and there's this lovely person, volunteer, and, quite honestly, it could have been, if I don't even know if they're in the room, it could have been Sharon, it could have been Erica, people I know now. Yeah. Talking to people as they're checking out, they're bagging the groceries, telling people about Lighthouse and what it does, and I'm standing in line, barely holding it together, going, okay, and walked by the table.
The universe is telling you something.
Well, and I walked by the table and I said, can I please have some of your information because I think I'm going to need your services.
Wow.
And it was 2 months later that he died. So Ellis died 2 months after Lauren did, 2015, great year.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was awesome. And so he died in July, and so Lighthouse runs during the school year, essentially, and we started in Lighthouse that September.
So when some have experienced grief, they can lean on the support of a partner. You lose your partner, but now you're in a really interesting situation. Your fiancé, Sean,
Yes.
who has also lost his partner.
That's right.
You both are there for each other in such a different and amazing way. And I'm sure there are nights when you both miss the deceased partner a great deal. The kids have this extra support network with other kids now that understand what they're going through.
Yeah,
Truly
so-
remaking life in a different way.
Absolutely. So Sean and I met 2 years after our spouses died, and Sean's wife, Tracy, passed away suddenly from an aneurysm a week after Lauren died. We were both Lighthouse families. We met indirectly through Lighthouse, though we weren't sort of in the same group. And we had connected, and I can guarantee you nothing was further from either of our minds than dating. But I think we had each gotten to a place where we were good. We had both chosen separately, obviously, that we were going to live a life well, because our late spouses, both Tracy and Ellis, were no longer here, and we had small children, and we are all still here. So you do make a choice, right? You can not get out of bed in the morning if you like. That'd be a really easy thing to do some days, let me tell you. But when you have kids who want to have breakfast and want their waffles made and all of those things, you keep getting up and you keep doing it. So Sean and I met 2 years after our spouses died, and went for lunch and didn't think anything of it at all. Not the last thing I was looking for was to date somebody and adding that level of complication to my life, because solo parenting wasn't hard enough. And I don't know how to explain it. We hit it off. We have literally been together since that moment. We introduced the kids 2 days later. We took them to a movie. But as a testament to Lighthouse, when we told the kids we're going to a movie, and I don't know if you consider that was a date that night. I don't know.
What
or
movie
not.
was it? Was it Toy Story? Tell me it was Toy Story.
No, it was Lego Batman.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it was awesome, right? But both of us told our kids, we're going to see this movie with another Lighthouse family.
Perfect.
And they went, okay.
Wow.
All
So-
feelings are okay. You instantly know it's a safe spot, which
It's
is
a
what the
safe
house
spot,
has become.
And for kids, one of the benefits of Lighthouse is kids don't like to be different. Kids don't like to stand out. And when they go to Lighthouse, I think any Lighthouse family will tell you this, they just get to be with other kids who are like them. They don't have to explain why they don't have they don't have a mom or they don't have a dad. Everybody in the room is missing a parent. And so we went to the movies and they were like, hi. And they've all gotten along like a house on fire since then.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
And that is that unlike Lisa, whose husband was in a coma for so long, or Lauren, who was gone so quickly, and Sean's wife so quickly as well, you had a chance to discuss this with Ellis. If you don't mind me asking, was it a topic that comes up? Because I can't imagine saying, okay, here's what I want for you, or I can't even talk about this right now.
Right, and interestingly, I find a lot of people assume that when you have a loved one who is really sick, you spend all of this time having these really big, deep conversations.
Right.
And that you're saying your goodbyes and you're
course, that's
you're
what you think.
mapping out your
Well, there's
life. planning
movies,
it-
right?
Right,
This is
exactly.
just like
I'm
a
going to
movie.
videotape
Yeah.
the rest of my life.
And the reality is,
Yeah.
you are living from doctor's appointment to doctor's appointment to chemo appointment to blood work to CT scan results to whatever, all the while raising, at that time, a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. So we didn't. I was lucky. Again, this is counting my own blessings,
Right, of course, yes, yes.
That Ellis was very. He and I. It's funny. We talked about some things very clearly, which was our goal was, while he was sick, in particular, to keep the kids' lives as normal as possible for as long as possible. That was our primary driving goal and where we operated from. And so we never had the discussion about what's going to happen later. And
Because you're living in the moment, and
yeah, and it's intense.
The moment's enough,
Yeah,
as
the
it
moment
is.
is very intense, and you are literally in fight or flight every day, every single day. So you're not having these wondrous, long discussions. And the reality is, for most people with terminal cancer, when you get to the end, they are medicated so much for the pain
Right.
that they're not fully with you
Right.
anymore in that very end period. So we did not have that discussion.
Thank you for answering that.
I'm happy to answer
Thank you.
that. I like to think that, Sean and I operate this way, which is we'd like to think that both of our late spouses would always choose more love for our children.
yes,
So the more people in their lives who love them,
more grandparents.
more
Yeah,
grandparents.
exactly.
We have
More
lots of
figures.
grandparents now.
And all the in-laws are coming to the wedding, I
All the
understand?
we are getting
what
married
day
in
is it? We all want to see this.
We are getting married family day weekend. And yes,
perfect.
we are very, very fortunate. We have 2 very supportive sets of in-laws.
Wonderful.
From Ellis's family. and
Choosing
Tracy's
love,
family.
right?
Choosing
It's all
love.
choosing love.
Yep.
Let's bring Lisa up on stage. Lisa, if you don't mind. So if we talk about balancing life and death, we talked about balancing the moment and the decisions of the future. What about balancing not only millions of shipments a day, airport hubs, thousands of employees, and then a real life or death situation for a prolonged period of time? Lisa, 2 years. Is that correct? Right around the amount of time where a vegetative state was
Yes.
your reality?
Yes, that's correct.
husband?
I met Patrick in grade 9, which we're high school sweethearts. People used to call us peanut butter and jelly. And in high school, which is very rare. I'm 50 years old, but when we met when we were 14 and stayed together, it's quite
Wow.
rare. And so we went together all through high school and all through university. And we had 4 kids at the time, 3 daughters, 9, 7, 5, and our son was 3.
Wow.
And we were just coming back. We rent a cottage up north for a little getaway. And we're just coming back from our weekend, our week away, and putting the kids to bed and getting ready for the Monday morning hustle. And it was interesting because you mentioned the word universe, and Erin and I have talked about universe and signs. I'm a big believer. And this day we're putting the kids to bed, and Patrick was very profound in his talk with me, and he was saying, we have a really good life. We've been together more than most people have because this is 38 at the time. We met when we were 14. He said, if things were, if something happened, I'm very blessed. And I remember looking at him going, what why are you getting so deep on me? And I mentor a lot of women that are grieving who they've told similar stories about their partner. So he's getting very profound. I'm kind of being dismissive, saying we've got to go to bed. That night we went to bed, and for those of us that are moms and dads with young children, we have bionic hearing. My 18-year-old daughter knows. I hear her when she's coming late from that curfew, and she's like, how could you hear that? I was so quiet. We hear everything. And we were lying in bed, and I hear a thump in the middle of the night, and of course I wake up, and I look over, and Patrick's not beside me, and I turn on the light, and realized he was laying on the floor, and I started doing CPR and called 911 in the whole bit. And he was rushed to our local hospital. I live in Burlington here, and basically they told me he had suffered from a heart attack, and he was 38, very fit. And and they said, we're going to put him into a drug-induced coma because they got his heart back, but because it had been deprived from oxygen for quite some time, the brain started to swell. And then basically after about 5 or 6 days, they said, we're going to take the drug off to see if he starts to wake up. And he wasn't coming back. So I had this team of doctors saying to me, you know what, he's not going to live a meaningful life. And Patrick had a living will that said, if I'm not going to live a meaningful life, don't prolong a life that's not worth living. Now, I'm assuming when he signed that, he thought he would be 94.
Right.
He's 38. So at that moment, you never know what comes over you in that moment when you hear about something, whether it be your husband with cancer or the death of Lauren. The moment you just don't know. But for me at this moment, I looked at this team of doctors and I said, is he brain dead? No. Does he have a flicker? Yes. And I went to, do miracles happen in this hospital?
Hope.
Miracles happen every single day. And I said, you hook him up to whatever you need to because I need to know if I'm going to get my miracle. And then for 2 years, I tried every brain drug I could, and I was not meant to get my miracle. And sometimes when a door is meant to shut, it's meant to shut, and we have to let it shut in order for new doors to open. So I knew at that time, after 2 years, his body was getting very sick from not moving, and he was in a vegetative state in every way possible. But you've talked about kind of making your kids finding your new normal, you finding your new normal. For me, during those 2 years, was I was able to bring him home every Sunday in a vegetative state he couldn't see, he couldn't speak, but the kids didn't know, like, hey, Dad, how are you? And I swear my 5-year-old had a conversation with him, and she's answering questions, and you just never know what, just at that moment, what gets you through, right? And, but after those 2 years, realized it wasn't meant to be, and he died peacefully in my arms at the age of 40.
For those 2 years, you saw life and death in the balance of every single day.
Yeah, it was really tough because, here I am trying to provide for his care because he looked good. I mean, he was slunched over, but his eyes were open. He learned to breathe on his own, so he looked really good. So you wouldn't think that something was wrong with him, So I always had to be his voice for care because people wouldn't know that he couldn't talk. And at the time I was the vice president of FedEx, so I'm trying to keep my job going, trying to raise my 4 kids. And then Haley's birthday actually was just like 10 days after his heart attack. So that's when you go into mummy mode and you try and just find what keeps you going. You going back to work. I went back to work about 3 months later, despite people saying to me, like, what are you doing here? But you know what? You have to find a way to cope with grief. And what I find with me is that during that time, I had to, distracting my mind with something other than grieving was such a blessing. For you going back to work, and for me at 3 months, going back to work, when I walked through those doors of my office, I could forget that outside world of just pure living hell and go back to work and trying to be somewhat normal. So you just try and find ways that you can distract your mind from grieving. And for me, just being able to go back to work and to do that was just very therapeutic for me. And there is no playbook on grieving. We can all say that. And everyone grieves differently. There's no right or wrong. You just do what you feel is right for you because there is no playbook.
Yep.
You've all mentioned work being a second family as well.
Yeah.
I got to thank you all for sharing your stories. So who's going to go home tonight and hold our loved ones a little closer and share some of these messages? Thank you, all of you, for being here. The strength, the larger-than-life presence, your personality, sharing your story, sharing your vulnerability. It's been an education for me, for sure. And I hope that most of all, I hope you'll read the book. I hope you'll learn more about Lighthouse. And I hope most of all, you'll go home tonight and you'll ignite this conversation, that you'll talk to your kids about what you heard here today. And who knows who they'll tell and who they'll tell and who they'll tell. And there's true magic in what the three of you are doing up on stage today. Thank you so much, folks. And thank you all for being here tonight.